Class, we're on set 2 problems of chapter 3, lesson 2, and we have here this graph shows a curve called an ellipse. Write the coordinates of the points on the ellipse that are named with letters. Now I'll leave it up to Mr. Fisher next year to teach you more about geometry and what this curve actually is. There are some particular distinctions that are interesting, and we may be able to sort of spot them by looking at them. If we look at the curve and we see first off letter A is all the way in the first quadrant. We see our x and y axis cutting through. It doesn't necessarily cut through right in the center of the ellipse, but we do see an x and y axis, and we see the letter A is in the first quadrant, letter B is in the second quadrant, letter C is in the third quadrant. Letter D is actually on neither quadrant because it's on the y-axis, okay? But it's in the lower half. And then we also see letter E, which is in the fourth quadrant. So what they're asking us to do is to give the coordinates of all of these letters. So we could simply write A, B, C, D, and E, and we just need to find what those coordinates are. Okay, so we know when we give coordinates, we're going to need to open with the parentheses, and we always go to the x first. So let's take a look. I'm not going to draw. I'm not even going to attempt to draw that on this graph. We can just reference our workbook here and our textbook on page 117. And if we look at A, we see that it's further east from the number 5. So if we started with 5, we just count over 6, 7, 8, and we see that the number 8 would be directly below the A. So our first number would be 8, and then we draw a comma, and then we would go up 1 to get to the letter A. So we know that our y coordinate would be 1. So that's going up the y-axis. So we have the x and the y. It's 8 and 1. So let's take a look at B. Now B, we're actually going to have to go to the left of the origin, which we now know that we're going into negative numbers on the x-axis. So we see that we're at negative 5, but to count one more over would put us at negative 6, which would put us directly below the B. All right, so let's go ahead and write parentheses negative 6. Then we have a comma, and then we would go up positive 2. Okay, we did negative 6, but we're going up, so we're going positive 2. And so we would write that as the y and then close our parentheses. So now our point would be negative 6, 2. C, we would again go to the left. And again, if you start at 5, you can count negative 6, or negative 5 rather, negative 6, negative 7. We'd go out to negative 8. Then we'd have to go downward below the x-axis, which means we're in negative territory again. Let's go ahead and write our negative 8 first. And then how far do we have to go down? Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. So negative 5 would be our y, and then we close it. So it's negative 8, negative 5. Now to find the D, we would have to go, well, we don't move either to the left or the right because it's on the y-axis. So our coordinate, our first coordinate point, or our first coordinate is 0. That would be the x. And then we would have to go down to negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. So our coordinate is 0, negative 7. And our last one is E. Actually, there's an F. There is not the last one. My apologies. We had E. We also have an F. So we start with the parentheses, and we would again start with the X. There's always a temptation because you're seeing the same, well, I'm going to go down and then across. That would be wrong because you would be giving me the Y value first. We always start with the X value. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 would put us right above the E, and then we'd have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our coordinate would be 6, positive 6, and negative 6, okay? Because we had to go down, so that would be negative below the x-axis. And now for our last one, F. F, well, that would take us out to, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it'll be positive 10, but then again we're going to drop down into negative territory, and that'll be 2 points. So it'll be 10, negative 2. So these are our points. And as you can see, our positives and negatives are all in their proper place. And we'll move on to our next problem in our next video.